generations to come.
Welcome to this week's edition of the TDN Writers Room podcast. My name is Bill Finley, and I'm a correspondent for the TDN.
How y'all doing? I'm Randy Moss of NBC Sports and also the Buyer Speed Figure crew, in case you don't know from all the Buyer Speed Figure references. And I'm here trying to get ready for what should be a fantastic Breeders' Cup.
Going to be an awesome Breeders' Cup. Zoe Cadman here with First TV and First Racing. Really looking forward to it.
Randy, how much of your suitcase is going to be taken up by your paperwork? Do you have to bring like 5 suitcases?
Well, let's see, Bill.
Boxes.
How about every past performance from every Breeders' Cup race going back to 1984? How about every chart from every Breeders' Cup race going back to 1984?
How about an iPad?
I've got one of those too.
How about an iPad?
I've got one of those too. It just takes a lot of effort to get all that into that. And then what happens if my battery goes dead? You know, then my brain goes dead.
We got chargers.
Yeah.
I'll buy you one.
Anyway, you asked right. Bill, so you got it.
So anyways, the pre-entries came out today being Wednesday. 207 horses pre-entered. No real surprises in the pre-entries to talk about. So I thought what we would do this week is just give an overview of each one of the races. Next week, we'll give our picks and talk about them. So I want to start on the Friday with the 2 big races for the 2-year-olds of Breeders' Cup Juvenile. And I'll throw this right to Zoe. Brant is a horse that I don't know what to make of, but how about his recent workouts? Has he looked like the Brant that won broke his maiden so impressively?
He really has. And I think I said a couple of weeks ago that I caught up with Bob and Bob brought him out and showed him off to a bunch of people. And I was absolutely flabbergasted by how much he'd actually grown over the course of the past few months. So I was all kind of out on Brant, and now he's kind of worked his way in. Obviously, we're all going to be looking at Ned Toffee in there. There'll be a couple of other interesting ones that will be running. But for me, the story is going to be Brant versus Ned Toffee, I think.
Ted Murphy.
Yeah, that too. There you go. We should have a drinking game.
We're going to do that. We're going to do that so often.
Next week, we'll have a drinking game.
At least you did it instead of Bill this time, right?
Yeah, right.
Next, it's my turn. It's a classic East-West showdown, right? I mean, I know Intrepido beat Desert Force or whatever his name is in the American Pharaoh, but on paper, it looks like it's got to be Brant versus Ted Nuffy.
Right.
So, and really, from a handicapping perspective, we'll talk about our picks next week. But what it comes down to quickly is Brant maybe not looking quite as dominant in his stakes win in the Del Mar Futurity as he did breaking his maiden. And to me, the weakness for Ted Nuffy is that all of his races, Saratoga and Keeneland, were relatively slow paced. And now he's going to go out there in Southern California where they're going to be lighting it up in the juvenile during the first part of it. And, can he adjust to that faster pace or will it see him out in terms of stamina as we might have seen with Tommy Joe a little bit at Keeneland and the Alcibiades? Anyway.
Randy, you're not willing to make it a 3-horse race with Intrepido as the 3rd horse?
He's improving, and, I love the way he surged right at the end to get the money in the American Pharaoh. But look, in terms of raw ability, Zoe, I think you'd probably agree, it's got to be, you would think, Brant or Ted Nuffy.
It certainly does. Intrepido will be kind of the wild card in there for me, I would imagine, because he's really an improving son of Maximus Mischief.
All right, so let's take a look at the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies. Which is a race that is always quite interesting. And let me find it in my past performances here.
I've got one I'm going to throw in here that I'd be intrigued to find out about, meaning for Michael McCarthy, Bridlewood, and Eclipse, right? We don't know the rider situation. We know that Rispoli has off of journalism, but we don't know that he's off of everything. Now, he hasn't ridden a horse for Michael McCarthy or Eclipse since that was announced, but obviously I've heard in several news reports that, he's not completely out everywhere. He's just off of journalism. And Meaning is a very, very good daughter of Gunrunner. And she's going to throw her hat in the ring in a big way, because we don't know how Tommy Joe's going to battle back. We've got Iron Orchard in there. Another story. They paid $2.5 million for her at the recent flash sale for Fasig Tipton. Katie Rich Farms bought her. And then Explorer for Bob Baffert. It's kind of an intriguing race with no massive standout. Now we know that Tommy Joe can get beaten or not beaten. She got put up on the DQ.
Yeah, and the reason why, because there's no massive standout, that's why Michael McCarthy, for example, is willing to take a shot on putting Meaning into the Juvenile Fillies after only one maiden win, and why John Sadler is taking a shot and putting Super Corredora in there after her very dominant 8-length maiden win, and she looked really good that day, going a mile at Santa Anita. I mean, you look at that, nothing really scares them away in here. Explora should be the favorite, and she won by open lengths in the Oakleaf, but her number wasn't really all that good, and it just leads you to believe that the race is kind of up for grabs.
Randy, how about the other Baffer, Bottle of Rouge, who beat Explora in the Del Mar Debutante?
Again, I'm a numbers guy. I thought Explora was, pretty much used up on the pace in that race, and she got a lot better last time out in the Oakleaf when they took the blinkers off her and she relaxed just a little bit off the pace. So I don't think that was, I don't think the Explorer that Bottle of Rouge ran against was as good as the Explorer that we saw in the Oakleaf. And meanwhile, let's get to another little something on Friday. There's so many unbelievable storylines in the Breeders' Cup this year, right? And a couple of them, as we go into the Breeders' Cup this year, in the race for all-time leading Breeders' Cup trainer, we have a tie right now with Aidan O'Brien and the late D. Wayne Lucas, both with 20 wins, with Chad Brown and Bob Baffert right behind at 19. And on Friday, Zoe, I know you've seen this. Aidan O'Brien and Coolmore are set up for an unbelievable day. They're going to have 3 heavy favorites on Friday. True Love in the Juvenile Turf Sprint, Precise, who is supposedly the best 2-year-old filly in all of Europe in the Juvenile Fillies Turf, and Shatad. Is that the way you say that? I think so.
Shtad.
And the Juvenile Turf. And now that Wild Desert is probably not going to run in that race for Godolphin, I mean, that makes Shatad a pretty heavy favorite. So, Coolmore and Aidan O'Brien are really, really, on paper, set up to start the Breeders' Cup weekend in a great way.
They could win all 3. Precise is amazing. She took down the Fillies Mile, the Morglare Stud, the Prestige Fillies. She's a multiple group winner. She's a Group 1 winner over there. True Love, so she's definitely going in the Turf Sprint?
Well, I don't know, definite, but that's the way they said they were leaning.
Okay, because I have a down a pre-entered.
They pre-entered in both.
Yeah, okay, all right. And I mean, Christ, she just took down the Grade 2 Queen Mary. She took down the Cheveley Park. She's looking to go on the heels of Lake Victoria for last year for Aidan O'Brien. He's basically going to have people bowing down to him on Friday because he is going to have some heavy, heavy favorites running in those turf races.
Yeah.
And they're the ones to beat for sure. I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing True Love and Precise on Friday.
And Friday and Saturday, we've got a huge Coolmore and Godolphin theme on Saturday. We'll talk about that. Going into this year in the owner's standings right now, Sheikh Mohammed, through Godolphin, through Darley, through horses in his own name, has won 27 Breeders' Cup races. Coolmore, John Magner, and all their different partners have won 23. Wow. So the race for global supremacy as it goes into the Breeders' Cup right now is Sheikh Mo has an edge.
All right, so we start the Saturday card with the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, and it's $1 million. Randy, there's the first of many Japanese horses entered into this race, Fee Blanche. Your handicap, you like Japanese horses. Guarantee you're going to pick Forever Young in the Breeders' Cup Classic because I know you. But as a whole, What do you make of this group this year of coming from Japan?
To me, Bill, it looks like Forever Young, and then a lot of mud they're throwing at the wall, hoping something will stick. You know, they're very difficult to figure on paper. To me,
Yes.
they're very inconsistent, except for Forever Young. They run a big race and then they're ninth. You know, and it's really hard to get a line on them. But famous last words, I certainly didn't like Marsha Lorraine either when she won the Distaff. But it doesn't look to me like they have any horses with any sort of reasonable, strong chance to win other than Forever Young.
One note on this race, too, you'll notice that Copion and Tamara, both from Spendthrift, are pre-entered in both this race and the male sprint race later on. I talked to Ned Toffee yesterday, and he said that they hadn't really made up their mind what they want to do, but you could read between the lines. It seems like the both are going to go in the filly race.
See, that's the story.
Yeah.
Right, Zoe? I mean, that's the real story of the race.
Yeah, that is the story of the race, those two. And honestly, I beg you to go and watch Copion's work. It was absolutely phenomenal. If I owned the pair of them, I would have Tamara with the girls and Copion with the boys, because that might be the lightest division of male sprinters that we've seen thus far. And looking at Copion, I think she could beat them.
Well, there's only 17 pre-entered in the sprint, which means only 3 will be excluded. And a couple will be excluded. So both Tamara and Copion are going to get into the main body of the sprint after but by the time people watch this, it will already be out. But it's going to be an interesting decision. And a horse that it's also pre-entered, trained by Richard Mandela, is Big City Lights. So I wonder if Big City Lights winds up on the also eligibles. If that might make they probably won't have anything to do with their decision. But yeah, that's the big story, where they're going to go.
All right, coming up next is the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. This is one of the few turf races on the card where the Americans have more than held their own. We're going to talk about some races later on where it's been all European dominated. But since 2010, there's only been 2 European winners of this race. And it just goes to show you that the sprinting horses over here still are quicker than the European horses, and they look like that they can more than handle themselves. I guess Ag Bullet would deserve to be the favorite, coming off a nice win and race at Kentucky Downs and won the Grade 1 Jaipur versus males and the start before that. Zoe, what do you think?
AG Bullet for sure. She'll be going to the Night of the Stars the very next day. She's likely one of the ones to beat. But how about the 2 old men in this race? That's the story here. Kadeem at 9 years old. He just took down the Grade 2 Woodford at Keeneland under, 56-year-old Frankie Dettori will ride Kadeem for trainer Charlie Hills. The horse has been stabled over here and will ship fairly soon to Del Mar. So that, to me, is the story of this race. 2 old men.
Yeah, there have been 9-year-old winners before in the Breeders' Cup. One, actually, Kaleidoscopio in the marathon. Yep. Remember that? The Breeders' Cup marathon. Kaleidoscopio won in 2012. Obviously was 8 when he won the turf sprint down the hill at Santa Anita back in the day. I think it was down the hill. Those are the oldest horses right now that have won in the Breeders' Cup. So that would be huge if another 9-year-old were to win. I think it comes down to AG Bullet, Motorius, who was second in this race last year. AG Bullet was third. If you watched Motorius's last race, and I know you did, Zoe, his prep, I think it was the Green Flash at Del. Oh my God. Did this horse come running in the last 3/16 of a mile? Holy
I don't even know how he hit the board. Honestly,
it was unbelievable. He had no shot, and all of a sudden, he's like making the other horses look like they were, in quicksand.
Horse for course.
Loses a photo and gets put up by DQ. But those two, and what do you think about Arizona Blaze, the European, who is in good form coming here?
Ooh, let me see. I can't even think of him. I know No Balls is on the outside looking in.
It's Ammo Racing. Arizona Blaze is just coming off a win in the Flying 5. And his stablemate, Bucanero Fuerte, is also
he's the one that I think is the most interesting, Bucanero Fuerte, to be perfectly honest.
All right. Well, Arizona Blaze made the trip last year and was just beaten a half length in the Juvenile Turf sprint. So he's done it before and run well. MO Racing is long overdue to win a Breeders' Cup race. They've come so close so often, but maybe this is the one. I don't know.
How'd you like to get Rapoli and Kia in the same room together? Have dinner with those two. The TDN Writers Room is brought to you by Keeneland. This year's Keeneland Championship sale will be held in the paddock after the races at Del Mar on October the 29th. And it's shaping up to be exactly as advertised. An invitation to play at the highest level. The catalogue is out and features stallion shares in Life is Good, Mindframe, and Not This Time. Breeding rights to Constitution and Nyquist, and fractional interest in Torpedo Anna, and Grade 3 winner Travers runner-up Bracket Buster, and Breeders' Cup Sprint contenders Ben Tornado and Mulligan. Supplemental nominations will continue to be considered until the sale. We'll be right back after this message from Keeneland.
Ladies and gentlemen, Keeneland welcomes you to the inaugural Championship Sale for this one-of-a-kind sales event, right here at the center of the World Championships. Your opportunity to play at the highest level is about to begin. Welcome to the Keeneland Championship Sale.
The fastest horse of the week brought to you by the Fast Sires at WinStar Farm. And this week, breaking news. The Breeders' Cup Sprint will be the final career start for Mulligan, WinStar's Grade 1 winner, who will be added to the WinStar Stallion roster for the 2026 season. And not only that, WinStar has supplemented Mulligan into the October 29th championship sale at Del Mar to auction a 25% ownership share. That's a 25% share in not only anything Mulligan might make in the Breeders' Cup Sprint, but also in his stallion career, which could be a good one. Mulligan's run 4 triple-digit Beyer speed figures, including a 106 and 105, and he's earned over $1.1 million so far, before the Breeders' Cup, of course. Perhaps future WinStar Stallion Mulligan will go out as the fastest horse of the week. Wouldn't that be special? Meanwhile, our fastest horse from last week is Sumter, who sped to a 4-length victory at Santa Anita on Saturday in the Lure Stakes. The 6-year-old Warfront gelding, bred and owned by Ramona Bass and her son Perry, is trained by Richard Mandela. Sumter also won last year's Lure Stakes. He got a 97 Beyer last year. On Saturday, his winning figure, 99. Sumter, our fastest horse of the week.
Welcome in now the Gainesway guest of the week, and it's Brook Smith, was one of the minority owners of Sierra Leone. He's also a minority owner of Schwarzenegger, who'll go in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Sprint. Brook, welcome. And I detect that Sierra Leone is flying a little bit under the radar this year. I asked Randy Moss to make a morning line for the race. He made him 5-1. Nothing wrong with being a slight underdog, but is he getting the respect he deserves?
You know, he's always that horse where he gets respect and then he kind of doesn't lose it, but doesn't keep it, He's just, he's had some odd races, certainly the last race, the last prep that he was in before the Classic. And it's hard to say that he's under the radar, but let's just rephrase that and say that sovereignty is the radar. How's that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, for full transparency, Brooke, I made Sovereignty 9-5, Fierceness 4-1, Sierra Leone 5-1, Forever Young 6-1. So I've got him right in there.
You have a future in odds making. I think you're pretty spot on there.
All right, so we got to cut to the chase here and get right to the nitty gritty, Brooke. You know what we got to ask you here. So Mike Rapoli comes out with this massive text criticizing the owners of Sierra Leone for running contrary thinking as a pacemaker in the Breeders' Cup Classic. He thought that the Breeders' Cup should not allow the entry of contrary thinking. And what I thought was kind of funny is that Coolmore, who is a majority owner of Sierra Leone, is also a part owner of Fierceness as well as journalism. But anyway, what do you think about that whole line of thinking that Rapoli put out in that tweet?
Well, you guys caught me at a good time because I just went to the ear doctor because I had to clean out all of the yapping that seems to be out there. Whatever happened to letting these horses do their thing, right? I don't have social media and I'm not faulting anybody. And I think at the end of the day, everybody has fun with it. So, that's all good. Rabbit, I guess it's allowed. It's part of racing. Really, to me, it kind of comes down to the trainer. And if the trainer feels like he wants that in the race, the ownership group should support it because Chad's done a great job with the horse to this point. It's a big race. It's a different race. I mean, the rabbit could get eliminated with a post position draw. So it's just one of those things that I think it's clear Sierra Leone needs pace, right? And if you're allowed to have a rabbit in a race that could have something to do with the pace, then you're playing within the rules. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. And it's an expensive play within the rules. But has contrary thinking made the difference in the last couple races? I mean, I guess you could argue that. But if he can get out there and put some pace into the race and it's all part of the rules, then by all means.
Okay, Brooke. So you're a passionate guy. You wear your heart on your sleeve. Take me back to the Grade 1 Jockey Club Gold Cup. You were there. I assume you were there. Were you there?
I was.
Okay, so you're there. You're watching it live. Things unfold not as planned. Obviously, Rapoli blamed contrary thinking. Your horse almost ran over Irad Ortiz. What were your thoughts watching that race unfold as it did as a passionate horse owner like you are?
Well, beyond the passionate horse owner, there was concern about people's well-being and horses' well-being, to be honest. It was dramatic. I was right kind of down near the rail. And when it all happened, it happened so fast, it was tough to even determine, as you can imagine, from, kind of the stands view, who was involved and what was going on. And then I wasn't even sure at the time that it was Irad on the ground. It took a second, but he wasn't moving around a lot. And the race was continuing. And as I watched him go into the turn, I thought, this race is going to get stopped. There's just no way they're going to get this jockey off the track after such a terrible spill. I'm surprised and shocked that they actually didn't. The race continued. But really all I was thinking about was, is everybody okay? Mainly Irad. I mean, the other horses seemed to be fine. There weren't any that pulled up or anything. So that's just a non-race, to be honest. I mean, Bobbian said, he kind of was trying to figure out what was going on. And granted, he comes from off the pace, so he made a good run. But the main thing was, after seeing what happened and understanding, the first concern was, is Irad okay? Somebody said he did this, he broke that, maybe he did this. And then after you watch the replay, you're thankful that none of the horses involved, were injured. And in particular, Sierra Leone. I mean, if he had taken a funny step and hadn't turned it to a steeplechaser for a second, I mean, who knows what could have happened to Irad or the horse. So, I mean, it was like, wow, oh my gosh. And happy that everybody came out of it okay, the horses and the jock, and, on to the next race.
And by the way, let's don't point a finger at poor contrary thinking there. It was Phileas Fogg and Kendrick Carmouche that veered in sharply that started that whole scrum. So anyway. Yeah,
that was unfortunate, could have been disastrous. So I'll take unfortunate. Randy.
Yeah.
Tell me why Sierra Leone is going to win the Breeders' Cup Classic if you have to make the case for it.
If I have to make the case for Sierra Leone winning the Classic, it would be this. There is a very short stretch run at Del Mar. Much, much shorter, almost a football field shorter almost than Sovereignty got at Churchill Downs or at Saratoga in the Belmont Stakes or the Jim Dandy and the Travers. And we know he's a horse that does his best running down the lane. Okay, so that will be a disadvantage for it. It's not that he can't overcome it, not that he's not good enough to overcome it, but that will be a disadvantage for Sovereignty. And if there's enough pace to keep Fierceness from getting out there and setting a nice, comfortable, easy lead, which is why Contrary Thinking was entered in the first place, then I think that puts Sierra Leone right in the hunt. Now, he's also got to deal with a short stretch, but he did last year effectively, obviously, at Del Mar and overcame.
Yeah, the pace really helped. Here's another question for you guys. Tell me what you think about older horses and younger horses racing against each other. How does that truly factor into the race?
But this time of year,
by this point, it's not. I think it's not a factor at all. 3-year-old Sovereignty is not going to be at a disadvantage to the 4-year-olds at all. It just comes down to the horse. Now, if this race were being run in May or June, something like that, you may have a case for, the 3-year-olds aren't quite up to it. But we've seen a lot of 3-year-olds do real good in Classic, and I wouldn't think that the older horses, especially when the 3-year-old is as good as Sovereignty, I wouldn't think the older horses have any advantage there.
No. And Brooke, I know this will shock Zoe, but I've done all the stats. I've done every stat possible, 3-year-olds versus older horses. And the weight break that 3-year-olds get from older horses, it's not significant, but it is a weight break, makes it come out almost dead even. So there is no disadvantage for the 3-year-olds.
And they've got a good record.
Yeah,
as of late, going in. They didn't used to have a good record, but basically since 2015, it's been nothing but 3-year-olds. So the 3-year-olds have really risen to the cream of the crop.
One last question, and I'll be happy to answer
anything you
want to ask. The winner of this race is the winner of this race in a special class, regardless of who it is.
Yes.
I mean, especially if it's one of, let's say, the top 5 contenders.
Yes.
Do you believe that?
Absolutely.
I agree with Randy and Zoe. The field is so deep. I mean, there's no flight lines this year, but I can't remember a Breeders' Cup Classic like this where you could go down. The top 7, 8 horses are all very, very good horses. So I would agree with that, that whoever wins this, as long as it's not a 50-1 shot or something like that.
I got out my calculator. My calculator and added it up. So every horse bar 3 in here is a millionaire or multi-millionaire. So there's 11 horses in here. The earners of more than 44,354,000 spread out between 11 horses. 44 million and change.
Wow.
I mean, this is the best Breeders' Cup Classic we've ever had.
Yeah.
Sounds like professional golfers.
One of the best. Yeah.
One of them.
All right.
So thank you for taking away that stat that I've been working on.
So let me ask you this, Brooke. All right. So your partners, John Magner et al., right? Coolmore. In Sierra Leone, also have a share of Fierceness and now also have a share of journalism.
Yep.
Nick Luck posed this question in an NBC conference call we just had a little while ago. I thought it was interesting. Let's suppose that Godolphin, let's suppose that Sovereignty doesn't run his race. All right. And you're at the 8th pole and it's Fierceness and journalism and Sierra Leone battling to the wire. Who do you suppose John Magner's rooting for?
I know John, but I don't know him well, and I have a lot of respect for him. That's where I'll start to answer this question. I think he's pulling for any of them. I mean, to be honest, but I mean, it'd be a lot to say that he didn't have a special place in his heart for Sierra Leone. I mean, my gosh, we picked the horse out at a yearling sale and took the risk, and I'm sure he'd be happy if journalism or Fierceness happened to win the race. But and I don't know if he would answer this question, but I can answer it if I was in their shoes. Sentimentally, buying a horse at a sale and watching the horse grow and develop from the beginning versus buying into a horse that's shown promise as a sire, I think he kind of sentimentally have to pull for Sierra Leone. I would like to think that. Yeah.
And he probably has one of those nice hats like you're wearing right now, too.
Now, the lads don't usually wear these truckers like this, but I'll be on better behavior. I'll definitely have on like a cowboy hat. They threatened to get hats made. I don't know if you know Adrian at Cool. I'm sure you do. He's a great man. He threatened to get hats made with like some of this scruff coming out the back that people could put on. And I'm like, well, what are you talking about? But anyway, I mean, look, here's the whole thing about this. You have to marvel at it. You have to have fun with it. And man, we got to take it serious. It's a sport. And we're talking about animals and history and everything else. But if you don't just with all the stuff that's going on in the world all the time, if you don't just step back a second, it's almost like going into a movie. You watch the film and you disappear in it. So I'm hoping that during the 31st and 1st, that all of us that love horse racing, we disappear in those 2 days, and just enjoy it. You know, I can't wait to watch the classic. I really am excited and hopeful that Sierra Leone wins. But if he runs a good race and he gets beat, so be it.
All right, you mentioned movies. You mentioned movie film. All right. Tell me if Arnold knows anything about the horse Schwarzenegger. Does he even know, you think, that he's got a horse named after him?
I don't think anybody's reached out to his people or him, but I hope he does, because it's fun. Again, that's another story. Yeah. I'm sure we could find his connections and say, hey, Arnold. But, Schwarzenegger's an interesting horse. He early on, Wesley was like, this is one of the best horses, and sprinter, turf sprinter, and early, and what can we go, the future and all this stuff. He's been hyped for sure. And I think he's lived up to it. The only way to name a beast like that is to name him after an all-time monster beast in Arnold. So, that's full respect there.
Brooke, you've been sending me some texts of billboards of Sierra Leone, one in Lexington, one in Louisville, and one in Dublin, Ireland. Are you the man behind those? And what was the idea with the billboards?
I am. Unlike the boy that steps on top of the mountain and cries wolf, I'm the guy that jumps on the top of the mountain and says, Sierra Leone, let's go. Because again, Louisville and Lexington had a lot to do with this incredible colt. And, my partners in Ireland, I hope they don't cuss me for putting the billboard up there in Dublin. I don't think they will. It's in respect and good fun. So, yeah, I am at the root of it. I don't have social media, so I have to use billboards. What's that?
Yeah, right. Let's go back to Schwarzenegger real quick. It seems like you have an affinity for the Fasig-Tipton sale and an affinity for Gainesway. Sierra Leone purchased for lots of money a Fasig-Tipton off of Gainesway, and now we have Schwarzenegger purchased for a little less money, by not this time. I think you paid $950 for him off of Gainesway at Fasig-Tipton. Are these the only two horses you're involved with the lads, or do you have more?
No, that's just kind of circumstantial, I guess, or just by chance. Though what a great sales company and what a great breeder farm. So when I was invited, which I jumped at the chance to buy into some higher dollar colts with the thought that maybe a Derby horse, maybe some sire potential. The first two were Sierra Leone and Hall of Fame. So we started out really well. And then we, I don't think I embarrassed them too much. And they invited me back into the next round. We bought eight yearlings together, the same ownership group, this time last year. And then considerably more actually this year. So I am all in with my good friends, Peter Brandt and Michael Tabor and the great Derek Smith and the great Magner family. So we have many together, including one that I mentioned to Bill earlier, Paladin, who ran a real strong race at Aqueduct last Friday. So he's showing to be a promising 2-year-old, and we'll probably go in the Remsen.
Great.
So do you mind if I ask you, let's keep it on Schwarzenegger. Can I ask you another question that might make you semi-uncomfortable?
Please do.
Okay. All right. It'll probably piss Wesley Ward off. I hope not. I like Wesley a lot.
Wesley's great.
All right.
You can't make him mad.
So you mentioned you're looking for Derby. Everybody looks for Derby horses. Okay. You pay $950,000 for a yearling. You're thinking Derby horse. You're a colt. You're thinking Derby horse. You're thinking potential sire. Now, especially you buy a horse by not this time out of a lemon drop kid mare. Horse is bred to run 1.5 miles. Why is he running 5.5 furlongs and 5 furlongs on the turf?
Because he's fast as hell. This horse knows how to run. I mean, they're going to have to come up with a whole new gate system to keep that monster in before it's all over. Okay. Let me just tell you right now. It's not all about just finding the next classic winner or the next sire, though if Schwarzenegger can prove that he's really talented, maybe he graduates up and runs a mile on the turf. I don't know. I mean, it's too early to call. We just want him to go the 5 furlongs in California. But he's an incredible yearling, and it was just one of those deals where everybody kind of gathered up and you're hanging around the phasing sales ring, and you've had a big weekend at Saratoga and you had a few bourbons and, oh yeah, okay, let's go. This is a beast. And, I'll take 10%. And that's kind of how it went together. So.
Brooke, you're very well known in the industry for being a philanthropist. You've done some wonderful charity work, particularly for the Backside Learning Center at Churchill. What do you have in store for the charities this year, if you're lucky enough to win one of these races?
I mean, the Backside continues to benefit from Sierra Leone as a part of that Purses for a Purpose program. Again, anything that I can do to help an industry that I'm passionate about that gives me a lot, it'd be great to give back. I was very honored to be invited to join the Thoroughbred Owners and Breeders Association board, TOBA, and I quickly jumped on the chance to get on the charitable philanthropic committee, because that organization does incredible stuff across all kinds of different horse-related nonprofits. So I'm spending some time working there. And again, anytime I can put my shoulder into something that helps people that sometimes seem to be overlooked, I'm all for it.
What does the T stand for, by the way?
Trouble. No. Thomas. Thomas.
Okay. Does that separate you from all the other Brook Smiths out there?
I don't know where the T entered the equation, but we're not going to lose it because it seems to be working pretty good. Okay. The biggest question that you need to ask me, which I haven't asked yet, is will Sierra Leone don the pink silks again? Mrs. Magner's silks. And I don't know how
instead of the navy blue silk.
Yes, I don't know how he couldn't, but I'll again defer to my partners on that. But I'm hoping that we see him in the pink silks.
Interesting. Do you get a shot with silks or not?
Just recently, I actually do get to integrate my silks into the equation. And I had all black silks, which unfortunately I could not use at Saratoga. There's a pretty prominent racing family that happens to have that on lockdown. So what I did out of respect to my partners is I put a navy blue sash across a black silk, still with the black cap. And we actually ran for the first time one of our other 2-year-olds a couple weeks back in the Brook T. Smith version of the silks.
Great.
Wow.
Very cool.
Nice. All right. Anything you could do to get me into Sandy Lane Farm this year, I would appreciate it, Brooke. Excuse me, Sandy Lane Hotel.
Yeah, hey,
you can go to the farm, Randy.
Sandy Lane Hotel. I don't even know there is a Sandy Lane Farm. I know some
people. Well, look, I want to say this to you guys because I love what you guys do with the Writers Room. And the first time that you invited me on was kind of the first time I'd had a real stroke of luck with Sierra Leone. And it was the Risen Star, cold, dark, rainy night, New Orleans. Oh. Somehow I walked out of there with the saddlecloth, and drank a overflowing sip of champagne out of the glass trophy that Churchill gave us. And into the New Orleans night we went. I'd laid the saddlecloth across my bed to try to dry it out. And of course, not thinking any better, the wet saddlecloth and the dirt from the track, the Ritz-Carlton's probably still looking for me for the bedding assessment. And then I got back to you guys after I'd been out with a pizza box that was in the room and somehow propped it up and was able to at least put a few sentences together. So thank you for having me back. Like I said, I love what you guys do. You're a great combination. It's a lot of fun. And let's try to spend the Breeders' Cup racing days and immerse ourselves in it, and like a great movie or a great film, and enjoy whatever happens.
That's a great idea.
Let's go.
Brooke, do you have any more questions for us?
No. I'll look forward to, I will give one handicapping tip before we leave.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Include Sierra Leone in your trifecta.
Okay.
Okay.
You're going out on a big limb there, Brooke. Are you sure you want to do that?
Yes. Oh, well, it's great chat with you guys. Thanks for having me on.
Brook T. Smith, thank you so much for being the Gainesway Guest of the Week. You're, as always, very entertaining. Congratulations on all the charitable work you do. And good luck with Sierra Leone and Schwarzenegger in the Breeders' Cup upcoming.
Watch out. Now, if Sierra Leone wins the Breeders' Cup Classic, I'm grabbing the trophy and I'm going to run down the middle of the track like Ferris Bueller. So get ready. See you guys.
Let's do it.
Our guest of the week, Mr. Brook T. Smith, was brought to you by Gainesway, home of the hot sire Mackenzie. Most recently, Mackenzie got a nice win at Keeneland on Thursday as the sire of Ken Ramsey's Dr. Kapoor, who ran an 87 Beyer speed figure in that maiden race and is now being pointed for the Kentucky Jockey Club Stakes next month at Churchill Downs. Meanwhile, Gainesway released the 2026 stud fees for their stallions this week, with the exception of Mackenzie. That's because Mackenzie has several hot Breeders' Cup prospects out there. Baeza, Chancer McPatrick, Scottish Lassie. So Gainesway's understandably waiting for those results before they set that stud fee. Gainesway, power, passion, performance.
Mackenzie in a dominant performance.
Million two, right there, 1,200,000.
Baeza gets his moment in the sun in the Pennsylvania Derby.
Chancer McPatrick wins the Champagne impressively.
Spectacular display from Scottish Lassie, who's in front by 15 lengths.
On this week's edition of First Things First, I caught up with the connections of Baeza prior to his penultimate work. Give us the lowdown on the work this morning.
Okay, well, Baeza went 6 from the 5. He had a real stiff work last week, so we wanted to just have a nice little stretchy work today. Thought he went very well. Hector Barrios was very pleased with him. And so we put Silent Way behind him to trail him and just get a feeling of what he was doing in front of Silent Way. So we get some feedback from Silent Way's rider and Hector. So I thought it all went very well.
Big thumbs up then.
Big thumbs up.
All right, good to know. We've got the whole team out here this morning.
So
we know Lee's excited. He's giving more instructions over here to Hector.
Many thanks to John and, of course, Lee and Susan Searing are on hand there to watch Baeza. But that wasn't the only horse to work at Santa Anita this past weekend. How about Copion getting put through her paces for Hall of Famer Dick Mandela? She was ridden by exercise rider Cisco Alvarado. And this, for me, was probably one of the best works that you could possibly see. Broke her off, sat behind horses, had to check at the 5/16 pole, went inside, and in a blink of an eye, she opened up 10 on her other two workmates. I got back to the barn and Dick Mandela was grinning like a Cheshire cat, like the cat that got the cream. That was an A+ work for Copion. We know she's pre-entered in the filly and mare sprint. I actually wish she was running against the boys, to be perfectly honest, coming off of that work. All right, what's going on at Santa Anita this weekend? We have racing Friday through Sunday for closing weekend, 1 o'clock post time. As always, free Fridays, all day happy hour. Saturday, we'll have the Pumpkin Patch and Fall Fun Fest along with Japan Family Fun Day. And then on Sunday, along with everything else, we've got Halloween Fest. And you know what that is? Sue's already jumping up and down. It's the Wiener Dogs. They're racing and they're racing in costumes. So a lot to look forward to this weekend at Santa Anita. Halloween Fest, only at the Great Race Place.
All right, move along on Saturday's card to the Breeders' Cup Sprint, Grade 1, $2 million. I would agree with you, Randy. This is not one of the more tougher Breeders' Cup Sprint races that we've seen lately. My man Bookham Dano would have killed these horses, but he's been sidelined and won't be back till next year. How about Straight No Chaser? Anybody give him much of a chance? It would be a good story to see him come back and win. And as a 6-year-old, come back and win 2 straight Breeders' Cups. The reason I asked that is because his race in the Santa Anita Sprint Championship was just okay. I mean, he led to the stretch and then faded to finish 3rd, but perhaps trainer Dan Blackler was just using that as a tightening race. We'll see.
Yeah, he's worked just fine. Honestly, watching him walk over for the Santa Anita Sprint Handicap, there is no doubt in my mind that he was not a fit horse. Maybe they just had to brush the cobwebs off, because physically looking at him and watching him work, he's as fit as a fiddle. So I don't know if he can improve off of that or not. I don't know what to think. Nakatomi will be interesting. I mean, the story for me in there, again, we spoke about this last week, is Lovesick Blues, another old man coming in for Liberato Barocio, the 7-year-old who just got beaten a Calbred Cal Flag 6.5 down the hill. Wouldn't that be a story?
Yeah. To me, it boils down to which Straight No Chaser we're going to see.
Yeah.
Are we going to see last year's Straight No Chaser or the one that prepped, with a sort of surprising defeat, I thought. And I think the winner's probably going to come from one of 3 horses, either Straight No Chaser, Ben Tornado, who was second last year to Straight No Chaser and tuned up at Churchill with a fantastic race right off the bench, and Lovesick Blues. You know, who loved Del Mar. Yeah.
Yeah, Ben Tornado's looked terrific working. His works at Keeneland have been terrific.
All right, next up is the Breeders' Cup Distaff, and this was a race that, again, could have come up a lot stronger than it did. Obviously, they made the right move not running the last year's 2-year-old, not running in this race. But with her out and some other injuries, I guess this Seismic Beauty would be the horse to beat for Bob Baffert. A lot will depend on the draw. This horse has got a lot of early speed, see if anybody can keep up with her. I'm also interested in these 2 Japanese horses again. Alice Verite and Argene, both are turf horses throughout their career. Why are the Japanese connections running them in a dirt race?
Well, Argene is expected to run in the mile on the turf. That's her first preference. She was pre-entered in both races. So Alice Verite is expected to run. And again, I think, I've been Mr. Japan in the Breeders' Cup, but not this year, other than, with the possible exception of Forever Young. I don't see a lot of other early speed in here, really. Seismic Beauty's kind of early speed. So to me, Seismic Beauty is going to be 8-5, 9-5 in here. And one of the interesting storylines in this is that there are only 2 dirt races at the Breeders' Cup that Bob Baffert has not won: the Distaff and the Dirt Mile. And he's going to have favorites in both races in this year's Breeders' Cup.
Good stat.
How's Seismic Beauty looking, Zoe?
She's looking okay. I'm not going to say I'm totally in love with she's been working just fine, but man, she can be a really good workhorse and a big burly workhorse. I'm just not quite seeing that. And she's coming off a little bit of a layoff. Fitness is not going to be a problem for her whatsoever. She is fit as a fiddle. I'm just not seeing that spark that I've seen from her before. Now it's Bob and we're 2 weeks out. So, anything can happen as far as I'm concerned, because Bob is a master genius at getting horses ready for Breeders' Cup days. But if I had to lean a hat or lean some way, I'm going Darth Vader. Owner breeder John Ropes just missed by a nose, a heartbreaking loss in the Grade 1 personal ensign to Torpedo Anna, her last race ever. I mean, if Torpedo Anna was in here and she'd just come off a win, she'd be the favorite. So don't sleep on Darth Vader.
I was just going to say, I think that's the biggest threat to Seismic Beauty.
Absolutely. She is. And she doesn't need the lead, or she can press the pace. Johnny V is just the perfect rider for her.
Okay, now, no one has mentioned Nitrogen, the 3-year-old filly owned by DJ Stable. I know she got beat in the Spinster by Jin, who's no real star, but she's been so consistent and so good throughout the year on both surfaces. Randy, am I missing something, or is there a particular reason why you don't like her?
No, I mean, she's run well. She was the best horse in the Spinster, even though she lost. She lost, she ran farther. She lost more ground, obviously, than Jin Jin did. And she just lost by that much. I've seen the photo, and of the Spinster, the win photo, and I've looked at the video, and I've stopped the video on the finish line, and I still have difficulty believing that Jin Jin won that race. I know there's parallax distortion or whatever you want to call it, but that was very surprising to me. But anyway, they're both in here, Jin Jin and Nitrogen. You can like Nitrogen, but then you have to like Jin Jin.
Yeah.
So I think they're both, maybe a little bit overmatched, Nitrogen against the older horses.
All right, coming up next is the Breeders' Cup Turf. And this is the one that the Americans have had a terrible time winning lately. The last 5 winners of this race have been European horses, and 9 of the last 10 winners have come from Europe. And they look pretty strong here, too. They've got a lot of really tough horses in here, including Rebels Romance, who won the race in 22 and 24. Will be trying to win it for the 3rd time in his career. And I see Mini Hawk, who won the second in the Arc de Triomphe, is a 3-year-old filly by Frankel out of the Coolmore bunch. Again, we don't run, no one in the United States would ever run a 3-year-old filly in the Breeders' Cup Turf. They think differently over there, and they've had a lot of success with that. So Mini Hawk is another horse to look for coming out of the European contingent. Zoe?
Oh, my goodness. What a race this is. And we're talking about the Distaff. This shadows the Distaff. It's going to be the most amazing race. Mini Hawk just beaten a gut-wrenching head by Darras in the Arc de Triomphe, the premier race in Europe for turfers there. She's a 3-time Oaks winner. It was soft ground at the Arc. She's going to get some ground. She can feel her feet rattle. She runs on broken glass if you ask her to. She is an absolute beast. So Mini Hawk's in here. Rebels Romance will be going for a 3-peat. Who else we got in here? We've got Ombudsman coming out of some really good races.
He's
Goliath.
not in. He isn't in, though. You got Goliath.
Yeah, Goliath was supplemented by John Stewart for 200,000 coming off a Group 1 win in Germany. So the gelding will be allowed to run there. El Cordobas, we saw what he could do. And then Amalok, second in the ledger, gets a cutback in distance, which is really going to help him. He's not a 1 3/4 horse for Rafe Becker, who knows how to win over here. So it's a really, really good race.
Oh, Rebels Romance trying to join Goldikova. And Beholder is the only 3-time Breeders' Cup winners. He'd be the first horse to ever have a 3-peat in the Breeders' Cup Turf. You got the Godolphin versus Coolmore, global dominance thing going again here. And another cool storyline at the Breeders' Cup this year that we've never really had before. Ryan Moore would be riding all these Coolmore horses, Mini Hawk, all the ones on Friday. And, of course, Ryan Moore is out with an injury. And the lads at Coolmore decided to tap Christophe Soumillon, the veteran jockey, one of the all-time greats in France, 44 years old, to come fill in for Ryan Moore. And he's been killing it. I mean, he says he feels like a kid at Disneyland getting to ride all these horses. And he knows he's not going to get to live at Disneyland forever. He's, Ryan Moore is going to come back at some point. But Soumillon says he's just, really enjoying it while he can. And he has not even ridden in the Breeders' Cup in the last 6 years, hasn't had a mount, and his only Breeders' Cup win was 20 years ago in the Breeders' Cup Turf. And now Soumillon's on at least 4 favorites: True Love, Precise, Chestad, and Mini Hawk here.
And, the reporters are going to love it, too, because he's a much easier interview than Ryan Moore.
Much more talkative.
Right. All right, folks. Well, let's get tied down for the Breeders' Cup Classic. We all admit this is a tremendous field. And as Zoe pointed out earlier, the combined earnings of these horses are $44.3 million. Randy, why don't you give us your morning line, and if our graphics people can pick it up and put a board up with your prices, because you said this was a very hard race to make a line on.
Oh yeah, I mean, I thought, okay, what would be in reasonable prices, and I started off making Sovereignty 8-5, and Fierceness 7-2, and for Sierra Leone 4-1, and points are out of control. Points are absolutely way too high. So you're going to get some great bargains on horses in this race. I ultimately made Sovereignty 9-5. You'd think maybe on paper he'd be a shorter price than that, but there are too many other horses to bet on. Fierceness at 4-1, 5-1, Sierra Leone 6-1, Forever Young. And then you're probably going to go up to double digits or close to it on horses like Journalism and Mindframe. You know, I mean, there's a lot of really, obviously, really fantastic horses in here that people are going to want to bet on, and that's going to drive the price up a little bit on everybody. What a classic this is going to be.
1, 2, 3 in the Derby, all coming back. 1, 2 in the Classic, all coming back. $44 million in purses. I can play Brook Smith here, Brook T. Smith. All right, let me ask a question. What happens if Journalism wins by 5? Is he Horse of the Year?
Good question. I don't think so. Sovereignty beat him too many times.
I think it depends on how Sovereignty runs.
Okay.
And it may not even depend on that. It may be Sovereignty in the bag. I don't know. If Journalism wins by 5 and Sovereignty runs a bad 6th or whatever, that would be open.
That's an interesting question. All right. I know who John Magna's going to be rooting for coming down the lane if it's Fierceness, Journalism, or Sierra Leone.
All right. I have my opinion. What do you say?
I'm going with Journalism.
That's
son of Carolyn out of an Uncle Mo mare. I mean, goodness gracious. Like the people are stacked up to breed to him already. And, you know, Michael McCarthy has kind of left the door open. If it was up to him, he said that he would run him next year. I don't know if that's going to be the case, but if you consider Fierceness had a 4-year-old campaign, hasn't hurt him. Sierra Leone has had a 4-year-old campaign, hasn't hurt him. Why not Journalism? Maybe this is the new age for Coolmore.
I mean, Sierra Leone has won his Breeders' Cup Classic. He's established his bona fides last year and his other races as well. Almost won the Kentucky Derby, for crying out loud. Fierceness has won big races. He's established who he is. Journalism has the most upside if he were to win the Breeders' Cup Classic, I would think, from a Coolmore future stallion perspective. And that's why I agree with you. I think if it comes down to those three, they would be rooting for Journalism.
So what do you think about the decision to take Rispoli off and put Jose on?
I want you to answer that because, you know, being the former jockey, it's part of the game. I don't think it's going to make any difference. I mean, it's not like you're taking a bum off the horse. But Zoe, I mean, Rispoli, I feel bad for him, though. I mean,
you can look at it a bunch of different ways. Some people have said, why did it take him this long? Why didn't they do it sooner? You know, they should have made a change earlier. The one thing I can say for Rispoli, I don't believe he's done a bad job the last few races riding this horse. Has he made some bad decisions in previous races? Yes, but he stayed on the horse then. I thought it was a little late in the game to be changing jockeys. 15 days out, pre-entries almost out. That to me was a little bit unfair. And yes, it happens. You got Jose Ortiz. They want the horse to be a little bit closer and a little bit more tactical, according to the connections. So, you know, I feel bad for Rispoli. I really do, because, you know, he's done a decent job with the horse. Has he always ridden him great? No. Has he ridden him particularly badly in his last few starts? For them to say everything's fine and not utter a word until 15 days out. But, you know, I don't own the horse. It's not my decision.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. You know, I might have done it after the Preakness, honestly, even though he won. And he wouldn't have won if he hadn't done what he did. But,
you know, we'll see. It'll either be good or not.
The TDN Writers Room, sponsored by the PHBA, the Pennsylvania Horse Breeders Association. Hopefully, last Saturday you watched Keeneland's Grade 2 Lexus Raven Run Stakes for 3-year-old fillies. What a race it was. 3 horses hit the wire together, and 27-1 long shot Kappa gamely prevailed over Vodka with a Twist and the favorite Ragtime. And guess what? Kappa is a Pennsylvania bred, daughter of Omaha Beach. The Raven Run, her first stakes win of any kind. She's now earned over $278,000 for owners LC Racing, trainer Butch Reed's Wellesley Stable, and cash is king. In other words, there was a party after that race. Kappa bred by Stone Jug Ranch. For more information on owning and breeding your very own PA bred, go to pabred.com or call Brian Sanfratello at 610-444-1050.
The Pennsylvania breeding program is the best program in the country. The Stallion Awards, the owner bonuses, also the restricted races and the stakes races for Pennsylvania breds. This year, 8 breeders are on track to earn over $200,000 in breeders awards, and 2 could hit the $1 million mark. We have the best program in the country. Take advantage of the fantastic program that we have.
Learn more at pabred.com.
Be a smarter better with First TV, the best horses, with thousands of exclusive morning workouts, all at your fingertips and delivered right into your inbox. Everything you need to be informed. Be smart, bet smart with First TV.
It's time for the First TV Work of the Week. The Work of the Week is brought to you by First TV, and this week, drumroll please, it's journalism, who had his penultimate Breeders' Cup work on Friday at Santa Anita, going 5 furlongs and 59-1 alongside stablemate Yellow Card. Now, journalism and Yellow Card did experience some unexpected company in the form of Constant Conflict, who joined them for the last quarter of a mile. Constant Conflict working in 48 flat, journalism going in 59-1. They actually finished head and head. And it was kind of interesting because Constant Conflict is entered on Friday for 12.5 claiming. However, he did get the jump on journalism, and journalism galloped out like a freight train. Big thumbs up, couldn't blow out a candle, and he is on track for the Breeders' Cup. In fact, he's already down at Del Mar. He'll have his next work next week at Del Mar.
Just 3 races to go on the Breeders' Cup Saturday card, and we're coming up now on the Breeders' Cup Mile. Americans haven't fared too poorly in this one. Since 2011, there's been 8 U.S. winners and 6 foreign winners. But this is, once again, there's some real tough European horses entered into this race. And I think they're going to be pretty tough. I would take Johannes as the best American horse, but can he beat Notable Speech or some of the other Europeans that are coming in here? You know, it's funny. Charlie Appleby is become more mortal. They had that 3-year stretch where he won like 12 of 15 races, right, or something like that. He's still very good, but he's not that automatic that he used to be. All right, Randy, U.S. or foreign?
Well, we knew, and Charlie knew, that wasn't going to be sustainable, that kind of incredible success. And you mentioned it a couple times. So if you, and I've done it, if you go back and look at the stats of European dominance in these turf races, okay, hugely dominant in the turf. They won actually 21 of the last 26 turf races. Then dominant, but not quite as dominant in the filly and mare turf. And then dominant, but not quite as dominant in the mile. And then it goes down again for the other races. It's by distance. The longer the distance, the more dominant the European horses have been in the Breeders' Cup. And the mile, as you pointed out, Americans have done fairly well. And I think the Americans have a heck of a chance this year. You mentioned Johannes and Notable Speech. They ran against each other last year in the mile. Johannes was second. Notable Speech was third. They were side by side at the top of the stretch. They came down the wire right together. And try as he might, Notable Speech could not get past Johannes. Now, I think Notable Speech is probably going to be the favorite, despite that, just because it's Godolphin and it's Charlie Appleby. But we'll see. I think it comes down to those two, although there's some other good ones in here, Zoe.
Yeah, Notable Speech for sure, especially winning on the tight track, the inside turf up there at Woodbine last time out. So, yeah, John Quill, maybe he could improve off his Keeneland race. He only got beat a length and a quarter. But Johannes is in terrific form, didn't get the best of trips last time. Rispoli going to have to make a decision. Does he ride Johannes or Formidable Man? I know which one I'd ride.
He's already made that decision. Yeah, it's Johannes and Johnny V. John Velasquez is going to ride Formidable Man.
Okay. So, yeah, those are the top three as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I know Will Walden won't agree with this, but I thought, honestly, John Quill might have been the best horse, and not rhetorical, in the Coolmore Turf Mile, because he had a poor draw. He had a far outside draw, and given a choice, they decided to go back instead of forward to move over, drop behind the field, and they were like 12 or 13 lengths back. Way too much ground to make up at Keeneland going a mile, and still he came rolling down the lane and got beat, like a length and a quarter or something.
Do we know who's riding John Quill?
No.
Okay. Next week we will.
I don't.
Next week we will.
Somebody does, but I don't.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Next up is the Dirt Mile in here. And this race, it's interesting because, Randy, you talked about this being one of the races that Baffert hasn't won. And he's got 3 in here, including the favorite, Nisos. Citizen Bull is very interesting, too. I mean, remember what a good 2-year-old he was and how he won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile last year. It looks like since Bob has decided to keep him to a little bit shorter races, the Shared Belief was a nice race. I know he didn't beat anything in there. He went off at 2-5, but at least it showed that he's back on top of his game. And goal-oriented, I wouldn't really put much stock in him. You also have Mystic Dan, of course, the Kentucky Derby winner, coming back. Brian Hernandez still sidelined, so I guess Francisco Arrieta will ride him. Randy, is it Nisos and Baffert, or is it somebody else?
Nisos has got to be the favorite, I would think. But, I mean, would anyone be surprised if Citizen Bull wins? I don't think so. Full Serrano, defending champ. Obviously, he's got a great shot coming back. I wouldn't be surprised if goal-oriented runs extremely well. Mystic Dan, no. Nisos, obviously, he's the favorite. White Abario. If White Abario runs his race back that he ran in the Pegasus, he probably wins. I mean, if he runs one of his A races, Breeders' Cup Classic, Pegasus, and if he doesn't get too far behind in here, he's in with a great shot as well. It's a hell of a race.
He's the unicorn in here, pun intended, White Abario, because Nisos, he's still got to jump through all the hoops to get there, had a sore foot going into the Pacific Classic and was scratched. So he's still got to get there, but he is by far the best horse in the race. But yeah, White Abario on his best day can beat all of these. And when he's firing bullets, he's doing really, really good. And he's firing bullets.
All right, the Saturday card concludes with the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, mile and 3/8. Once again, a lot of Europeans in here, as you would expect, including Mini Hawk. Mini Hawk is definitely going to run on the turf, Randy?
Yes.
Yes. That's the plan. Okay. And again, it's a situation. Can we beat the Europeans? There's been only 5 U.S. winners since 2012. But with Mini Hawk not going in here, there's no European horse that really jumps off the page to me. So I think She Feels Pretty can get the job done. She's proven to be the best filly and mare, turf mare in the United States. And she's in great form right now. She won the E.P. Taylor last time out for Cherie DeVoe. That's probably where I would wind up going when we make our picks next week. But I want to take a little deeper dive into the European horses. And you got the Japanese horse in here, too, which is, again, Randy, you're right. This Alice Verite, just the form is so in and out. It hasn't been very good lately. So I wouldn't put much stock in that horse.
And her first preference is in the Distaff anyway. So she probably won't run in there.
Watch out for See the Fire in here for Andrew Boulding. Just beaten a neck in the Prix d'Opera. comes in with some good form, excuse me, going to love the top of the ground. I mean, she's been running against some budsmen. She's been running in some really, really good races, and Andrew knows what type of a horse to bring over here. So she could be very interesting. I do agree with She Feels Pretty. It's a good race. It's a really good race.
From a value betting perspective, See the Fire might be the best play of the 2 days.
Yeah.
What price will we get?
6-1.
Okay.
And she's not 6-1 on paper. No. And Zoe, I'd be interested in getting your opinion on this. Here's my concern. I'm a big She Feels Pretty fan, right? Yeah. I mean, I've been saying all year long, she's the best turf filly in America. Okay. But she's very aggressive. She's very keen in the early part of her races. Johnny V winds up fighting with her part of the time to try to get her slowed down. He's always taking a really hard hold of her, mouth's open. She sits behind horses. And then when he gives her head, finally, 3/8 pole, 5/16 pole, she makes these massive moves and just blows by horses and opens up. Last time at Woodbine at 1.25 miles, okay, she did the same thing. She was very keen, let her go, opens up. And if the race had been 1.25 miles and 20 feet, she loses to Diamond Rain.
Yeah.
And Diamond Rain had a worse trip. And she was absolutely eating up She Feels Pretty at the end. And now She Feels Pretty's got to go 1 3/8 miles. She's got to conserve that energy to get 1 3/8 miles. And I'm just worried that her keenness is going to be her undoing.
Draw is going to be critical for She Feels Pretty to get a comfortable trip, in my opinion. I mean, I would take See the Fire over her purely for the fact she's got to relax. You know, if she's got Stellify's got speed, there's plenty of speed in here to kind of rev her up and jump her into the bridle. Can she get 1 3/8 miles? Sure. Will she get it better at Del Mar over that track? Definitely. So it's within the realms of possibility for her, especially at Del Mar, which will favor horses stretching out perhaps a little further than they want to. But she's going to have to drop the bit against some of the best Euros. Yeah.
And the reason this might be such a good betting race, Bill, is that, you've got She Feels Pretty, who's been odds on in her last 5 races, and she's won 4 of them. She'll probably be the favorite. But you've got Diamond Rain, who's going to be bet on because she almost beat She Feels Pretty last time. You've got Cinderella's Dream, who, like Diamond Rain, is owned by Godolphin, trained by Charlie Appleby. Cinderella's Dream was second in this race last year and should have won. She was the best horse. And the Mora people don't like it when I say that, but she was the best horse in last year's Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf. She's off form, though. Her last couple of races, she hasn't been as sharp as she was in her earlier races. So all those horses are going to take money. And that's going to drive the price up on not just See the Fire, but Gazora and some of the other horses in this race that would have a shot on paper.
All right. Well, it looks like it is going to be a fantastic Breeders' Cup coming up in a week and a half. And especially that Classic is one for the ages.
The TDN Writers Room also brought to you by West Point Thoroughbreds, which pre-entered, that should be, 3 horses for the Breeders' Cup. Futurity winner Intricate Spirit, who takes a perfect 2-for-2 record into the Juvenile Turf Sprint for trainer Miguel Clement. Vava, the popular Grade 1 winner trained by Cherie DeVoe, who's made $2 million and goes in the Filly and Mare Sprint. And Super Corridora, such an impressive maiden winner recently at Santa Anita. The trainer John Sadler's wheeling her back in a wide-open Juvenile Fillies. Those are well-known West Point horses. You can check out some of their latest additions, though, including several European imports, by going to www.westpointtb.com.
All the thrills. Fraction of the bills. Experience the power of the partnership. Change your life, make new friends, and compete at the highest level of thoroughbred racing. West Point Thoroughbreds, the gold standard in racing partnerships. Visit westpointtb.com.
That that's a wrap on this week's show. I want to thank my co-hosts, Randy Moss and Zoe Cadman. I want to thank our Gainesway guest of the week, Brook Smith. Also, the people that work behind the scenes, our producers and editors, Sue Finley, Katie Petruniak, Anthony LaRocca, and Aaliyah LaRocca. We'll be back next week with a lot more Breeders' Cup talk. Should be a great couple weeks of racing to look forward to, and we'll see you next week.